The day before Christmas, my mom looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Your sister's friends will stay here. You can cook and clean." Just like that. No hesitation, no kindness. Like I wasn't her daughter at all, just the help. And that was the moment I knew. I wasn't going to stay another second in that house. You see, my name is Harper Lane, and for as long as I can remember, my mom has treated me less like her child and more like her live-in maid. The problem? I wasn't hired for this job. I was born into it. Let me paint the picture for you. My mom's name is Diana. On the surface, she's the perfect suburban mother, always dressed neatly, Christmas lights strung perfectly across the roof, cookies cooling on the counter, the kind of woman neighbors wave to and admire. But behind closed doors, she's cold. Her voice sharp, her expectations impossible. If something needed doing, it was always me she called. Not my sister, not anyone else, just me. Then there's my dad, Robert. He's a good man, or at least he wants to be. But he's quiet. Too quiet. He works long hours, and when he's home, he prefers to avoid fights. He'll pat me on the shoulder after Mom scolds me and say, "Don't take it personally, Harper. That's just how your mother is, but here's the thing. When you're a kid, being dismissed hurts just as much as being criticized. And then, of course, there's my sister, Madison, or Maddie as everyone calls her. She's 21, the golden child, and she knows it. Everything about her screams perfect. Perfect smile, perfect grades, perfect charm. To my mom, she can do no wrong. If Maddie forgot to take out the trash, it was because she was busy studying. If Maddie snapped at me, it was just sibling banter. But if I made even the tiniest mistake, suddenly I was lazy, ungrateful, selfish. So when Mom made that announcement, when she stood in the kitchen with the smell of cinnamon rolls in the air and the Christmas tree glowing in the corner, I wasn't surprised. She told me Maddie's college friends were coming over to stay for the holidays, and just like that, she assigned me the role of maid, cook, and cleaner. "You'll handle it, Harper," she said with that dismissive tone. I stared at her, trying to process it. "You want me to host Maddie's friends? On Christmas?" She raised her eyebrows. "Is that a problem? You don't have plans anyway. You should be grateful to contribute." And Maddie, standing right beside her, smirked. "You're good at it anyway, Harper." Think of it as practice. For what? For a lifetime of being invisible? I felt the blood rush to my face. My heart was pounding so hard I thought they could hear it. For 19 years, I had played my role. The quiet one, the helper, the forgotten daughter. But that night, I realized something. They didn't see me as family. Not really. And if that was true, then what was I still doing? There? The truth is, I'd been dreaming of leaving for years. Ever since I was 14, I'd kept a folder on my laptop filled with pictures of places I wanted to see. Hawaii, California, even just New York City. Anywhere that felt alive, anywhere that didn't trap me in the shadows of my own family. But I never had the courage. Not until my mom told me, the day before Christmas, that I was responsible for serving Maddie's friends. That was the moment something inside me snapped. I knew right then I wasn't going to spend another Christmas scrubbing floors and cooking meals for people who barely noticed I existed. I was done being their help. So while my mom and sister carried on, planning a picture-perfect holiday with carols and hot cocoa, I quietly made a decision that would change everything. Instead of being the maid of honor in their little holiday show, I was going to disappear. I was going to board a flight to Hawaii, alone. And when they came home on Christmas Eve to an empty house, no food prepared, no beds made, no helpful Harper waiting to pick up the slack, the real surprise waiting for them wasn't just my absence. It was the realization that I'd finally chosen myself. After my mom's words sank in, I remember just standing there in the kitchen, frozen. The tree lights twinkled behind her, and the smell of sugar cookies filled the air, but none of it felt warm. It all felt staged, like the decorations and the smiles were there for everyone else, while inside the truth was brittle and cold. Let me tell you what it was really like growing up in my house. On the outside, we looked like the perfect family. Our neighbors admired us. Mom kept the yard immaculate. Maddie was always smiling and waving. Dad worked hard. And I filled in the gaps. If there was a school bake sale, I stayed up late frosting cupcakes while Maddie took them to school and soaked up the praise. If chores piled up, Mom called for me, not Maddie. And if guests came over, I made sure everything was spotless. But the reality was harsher. My mom didn't see me as her daughter in the same way she saw Maddie. With Maddie, there was affection, small touches on the shoulder, words of encouragement, pride in her achievements. With me, there were orders. Harper, clean your sister's room. She's busy with her studies. Harper, set the table. Maddie's got company. Harper, don't argue. You should be grateful for what you have. Those were my mother's love letters to me, commands disguised as responsibility. And Maddie? She didn't just accept the favoritism, she thrived in it. She played her role as the golden child perfectly. She would flash her perfect smile, toss her long brown hair over her shoulder, and laugh whenever Mom scolded me. I was the backdrop to her spotlight. It wasn't that Maddie was cruel all the time. Sometimes she'd lend me a sweater or share her makeup, but everything came with an undertone of superiority. She knew she was the favorite. She knew I couldn't compete. And why would she? She had no reason to see me as anything other than her shadow. Dad was the only one who gave me glimpses of comfort. He'd peek into my room late at night, see me bent over homework and say, "You're working hard, kiddo. I'm proud of you." But his words were whispers drowned out by Mom's constant criticism. He never fought for me. He never stood between me and her demands. He thought silence was kindness, but all it did was remind me I was alone. So when Mom stood there, the day before Christmas, telling me I'd be responsible for Maddie's friends, it was like the years of being invisible hit me all at once. She didn't even ask if I had plans. She didn't consider my feelings. She didn't think of me at all. And Maddie? She grinned like it was a joke. "You're good at it anyway, Harper." "Think of it as practice," she said, her voice light, teasing. But there was nothing light about it. I felt like my entire existence had been reduced to one role, helper. Not daughter, not sister, not even person, just helper. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of Christmas music downstairs. I thought about the years of sacrifices, of holidays where I worked in the background while Maddie opened gifts, holidays where my mom praised her smile but never noticed mine. I thought about the times I stayed home to watch the house while Maddie went to parties, about the evenings I cooked dinner because Mom was too tired, about how Dad would smile apologetically but never step in, and I thought about how I had quietly kept track of every penny I earned at my part-time job at the bookstore. I had over $1,000 saved. Not much, but enough. Enough for a plane ticket. Enough for a taste of freedom. My phone buzzed beside me. A group chat filled with Maddie's friends' excited messages. "Can't wait for tomorrow. Thanks to your mom for letting us stay. It'll be the best Christmas ever." I stared at the messages, my stomach twisting. They were thanking Maddie. Always Maddie. Meanwhile, I knew who would be the one up at dawn making breakfast, vacuuming the guest rooms, scrubbing dishes while they laughed and unwrapped presents. I closed the chat without replying and opened the photo folder on my laptop. Beaches, sunsets, Hawaii. I had collected those images for years, imagining myself there, toes in the sand, free from the weight of being invisible. And for the first time, I let myself ask a dangerous question. What if I didn't stay? What if I left instead? The thought terrified me, but it also electrified me, because maybe, just maybe, Christmas didn't have to mean servitude anymore. Maybe this year it could mean freedom. The morning after Mom gave me my orders, the house was buzzing with energy. Christmas Eve, the day everyone was supposed to be joyful, cozy, and together. But for me, it felt like the walls were closing in. I woke up to the sound of Mom already on the phone, her voice brisk, sharp, filled with that false sweetness she saved for outsiders. "Oh yes, the girls are so excited. Madison can't wait to see her friends. The house will be perfect, perfect." That was her favorite word. But when she said perfect, she meant me. Me working, scrubbing, cooking until every detail matched the image she wanted to project. When I came downstairs, Mom didn't even look at me before rattling off instructions. "Harper, vacuum the guest rooms, change the sheets, make sure the bathrooms sparkle. And don't forget to start on the casseroles for tonight. Madison and the girls will be hungry after their drive." I just stood there, holding onto the banister, staring at her. I wanted to scream, Why is this my job? Why is Maddie excused from everything? Why am I your workhorse? But I didn't say it. I couldn't. Because then Maddie swept into the room, radiant as always, her hair bouncing in soft curls. She kissed Mom on the cheek, grinning. "Morning, Mom. Don't stress too much. We're going to have so much fun." Mom's face softened instantly. She reached out, touched Maddie's arm like she was touching something fragile and precious. Then she glanced at me, cold, distant. Orders, not affection. I clenched my fists, trying not to cry right there. Maddie caught my expression and smirked. "Don't worry, Harper. You're good at this stuff. You like organizing, right?" Like, as if I enjoyed being treated like the family maid. The hours dragged on. I dusted, vacuumed, folded linens until my arms ached. Mom kept swooping in to criticize. "You missed a spot. That pillowcase isn't smooth enough. Harper, hurry up, we don't have all day." And through it all, Maddie lounged on the couch, scrolling on her phone, laughing at texts from her friends. She only got up once, to ask me to fetch her coffee, and when I didn't move fast enough, she rolled her eyes. "Geez, Harper. It's not that hard." Something inside me cracked a little more with every passing moment. By mid-afternoon, I was in the kitchen, peeling potatoes, my hands moving automatically. Mom walked in, checked the counters, and said, "Don't forget, Harper, once you're done cooking, set the table nicely. We want the house to feel welcoming. Remember, this reflects on me." That was it. Those words, "This reflects on me," burned in my chest. None of this was about family. None of it was about togetherness. It was about appearances, about my mother's obsession with looking perfect to the outside world. I wanted to shout, "I'm not your maid, I'm your daughter." But the words stuck in my throat. Because deep down, I knew she wouldn't hear them. She never had. So instead, I slammed the knife down harder than I meant to. The sound made Mom pause. She looked at me with that raised eyebrow, the one that said, "Don't you dare challenge me." For a moment, our eyes locked. I felt my heart pounding, my breathing quickening. My entire body screamed to fight back. But then she shook her head, dismissive as always, and walked away. That was the breaking point. I finished the potatoes, wiped my hands on a towel, and walked upstairs. I didn't bother with subtlety anymore. I closed my door, sat on my bed, and pulled out my laptop. The thought that had been simmering in the back of my mind since last night roared to life. Leave. Just leave. My savings, my photo folder of Hawaii sunsets, my desperate need to escape, it all collided into a single, unstoppable wave. For years, I had been invisible, but right then, I realized I didn't have to be. I could choose something different. I heard laughter echoing from downstairs, Mom and Maddie enjoying themselves, blissfully unaware of my storm, and I thought, why am I still here? I opened the airline website and typed Honolulu. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, shaking. This was insane, reckless. I'd never traveled alone before, but it felt like the only option. Because if I stayed, Christmas would be just another reminder that in this house, I wasn't family. I was labor. So I whispered to myself, enough. I'm done. And with that, I clicked search flights. When I clicked that search flights button, my heart was pounding so hard it felt like the whole house could hear it. The glow from my laptop lit up the dark room, and for the first time in years, I felt like I was in control. The screen filled with options. Flights out of our little hometown airport, connections through Los Angeles, prices that made my stomach twist. My savings wasn't much, just over $1,000, but one round-trip ticket to Hawaii on Christmas Eve was staring right at me. It cost nearly half of what I had saved, half my savings for freedom, for peace, for a Christmas that belonged to me, not my mother's image or my sister's spotlight. My fingers hovered over the purchase button. I heard Maddie's laughter drift up the stairs, followed by Mom's cheerful voice. They were talking about how excited Maddie's friends would be to arrive to a warm meal, cozy beds, and a perfectly decorated house. My hands shook. This was it. This was my choice. Stay and be invisible, or leave and finally breathe. I whispered, "Do it, Harper," and I pressed the button. The confirmation email hit my inbox and I stared at it in shock. My flight left the next morning at 7:15 a.m., less than 24 hours away. My stomach flipped between terror and exhilaration. I wasn't just dreaming anymore. I was leaving. Preparing, Surtur. The rest of the evening felt like walking on a tightrope. I slipped downstairs to grab dinner, careful not to draw attention. Mom was pacing the kitchen, reviewing lists. Maddie sat at the table, painting her nails. Mom didn't even look at me when she said, "Harper, after you eat, make sure the guest bathroom has fresh towels." And iron the tablecloth for tomorrow. I nodded automatically, my mind screaming with the secret I held. She had no idea that by this time tomorrow, I'd be thousands of miles away. Back in my room, I pulled out my duffel bag. Every sound felt too loud, the zipper, the shuffle of clothes. I kept pausing, ears straining for footsteps. What do you even pack when you're leaving your family on Christmas Eve? I chose quickly. A couple pairs of jeans, t-shirts, my swimsuit, the light blue sweater Dad had given me last year. It was the only gift he'd picked himself, and wearing it felt like a shield. I tucked my journal and a paperback novel into the side pocket, essentials only. Before I closed the bag, I pulled out a piece of notebook paper. I stared at the blank page for a long time. Then slowly, I began to write. Mom, Dad, Maddie, I won't be here when you need me most. I'm tired of being treated like the help. I deserve more than this, and I'm choosing myself for once. Don't look for me. Harper. I folded the note, slid it under my pillow, and zipped the bag shut. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the house made my heart race. At one point, Dad peeked into my room. "You still awake, kiddo?" he asked softly. I forced a yawn. "Just can't sleep." He smiled faintly. "Big day tomorrow. Don't let your mom stress you out too much." Then he left, the door closing gently behind him. I wanted to tell him everything, to say, "Dad, I'm leaving." I can't take it anymore, but I didn't, because I knew he wouldn't stop me, but he also wouldn't stand with me. So I held my secret close, clutching the blue sweater like a lifeline. My alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m. I moved in silence, heart hammering, ears sharp for any sound. Maddie's door was closed, music faintly thumping from her headphones. Mom and Dad were asleep. I crept down the stairs, bag in hand. The Christmas tree glowed in the dark living room, its lights casting soft shadows. The stockings hung neatly, gifts piled beneath. For a second, I hesitated. This was supposed to be home, family, tradition. But I shook the thought away. Tradition meant nothing when it suffocated you. I slipped the note onto the kitchen counter, right beneath the bowl of oranges Mom always kept polished for guests. My hand lingered on the paper. Then I pulled away, grabbed my coat, and stepped outside. The air was sharp and cold. The world was silent, blanketed in snow. My breath clouded in front of me as I walked toward freedom. The taxi driver didn't ask questions. I sat in the back, staring out the window as houses blurred by. Each passing block felt like another chain breaking loose. At the airport, the holiday chaos swirled around me. Families hugging, children clutching stuffed animals, couples in matching sweaters. And there I was, alone, with a single bag and a heart full of both fear and fire. As I handed my boarding pass to the gate agent, my hands trembled. She scanned it, smiled, and said, "Merry Christmas." I nodded, throat tight, and whispered back, "Merry Christmas." But inside, I thought, for the first time, it might actually be one. When the wheels of the plane lifted off the ground, I felt the weight of 19 years slide from my shoulders. The engines roared, the runway fell away, and suddenly I was in the sky, above the snow, above the house that had kept me trapped, above all of it. I pressed my forehead against the window, watching the tiny lights of my town fade. My chest tightened, not with regret, but with a wild, dizzy mix of terror and exhilaration. I had done it. I had left. As the plane soared, I imagined the scene unfolding back home. By the time Maddie and her friends pulled into the driveway that afternoon, their car stuffed with overnight bags and laughter spilling out the windows. The house was already hollow. No scent of casseroles baking, no warm welcome waiting at the door. Just silence. Mom was the first to walk in, her heels clicking across the polished wood floor. She called out, "Harper? Are the beds ready?" No answer. She frowned, setting down her purse, scanning the spotless living room. Maddie and her friends filed in, their chatter filling the space. "Wow, your house is so cute," one of them said, snapping pictures of the Christmas tree. Another asked, "What's for dinner?" "Smells like nothing." That's when Mom noticed the note. It was sitting on the counter exactly where I left it, folded neatly. She picked it up, probably expecting some list of chores I had completed. But as her eyes scanned the words, her face drained of color. "I won't be here when you need me most." Her hands trembled. She read it again, as if hoping the letters would rearrange into something different. Maddie leaned over her shoulder. "What is it?" She snatched the note, her brow furrowing as she read. Her smirk disappeared. "Wait, she left?" Her friends went quiet, exchanging glances. I pictured Mom pacing the kitchen, furious and panicked. "She's bluffing. She'll be back." But the note was clear. I wasn't coming back. Not for Christmas dinner, not to iron sheets, not to scrub toilets while they entertained. Dad must have walked in moments later carrying an armful of firewood. He probably saw Mom's pale face, Maddie's shock, and asked, "What's going on?" And then he would have read the note. For the first time, maybe ever, he would realize what his silence had cost. The guests grew uncomfortable, shifting in their coats. One whispered, "Should we go?" Because the truth hit them too. The comfort they expected, the perfect holiday they imagined, it all relied on me. And without me, the illusion shattered. Meanwhile, high above the Pacific, I couldn't stop smiling. My seatbelt felt like armor. My window seat a throne. A flight attendant handed me a small packet of cookies, and I laughed quietly. For the first time in forever, someone was serving me. I thought about the Christmases before, me kneeling on the floor to scrub spills while Maddie opened gifts, me rushing around to keep everything perfect while Mom snapped photos for her friends. Not this year. This year, I had given myself the only gift that mattered: freedom. As the plane descended hours later, the sun set over the horizon in shades of orange and pink. I imagined Maddie pacing, furious she had to host her friends without me. I imagined Mom, humiliated, realizing her perfect image was cracking. I imagined Dad, finally facing the truth. His quietness hadn't protected me. It had abandoned me. And I knew, deep down, they'd never expected me to fight back. They thought I'd always be there, silent, compliant, invisible, but not anymore. When the plane touched down in Honolulu, the warm air rushed in as we stepped off the jet bridge. The scent of flowers and sea salt filled my lungs, and tears pricked my eyes. I had never felt more alive. I walked through the terminal, clutching my bag, watching families reunite with hugs, couples kiss beneath the glowing holiday lights. And though I was alone, I felt something stronger than loneliness. I felt powerful, because for once I wasn't playing a role in someone else's story. I was writing my own. Back home, my absence wasn't just inconvenient, it was transformative. Mom couldn't maintain her image without me. Maddie couldn't lean on me to keep her perfect. Dad couldn't hide behind silence anymore. And that was the real surprise I left them with. Not just an empty house, not just a ruined Christmas. The real surprise was the realization that the daughter they had dismissed, overlooked, and underestimated was gone. And she wasn't coming back the same. The first thing I felt when I stepped out of the Honolulu airport was warmth. Not just the balmy air wrapping around me, but something deeper. Like freedom had its own temperature, and I was feeling it for the very first time. Palm trees swayed against a golden sky, and in the distance, I could hear the faint crash of waves. People rushed past me with luggage and leis, families reunited with laughter and tears. And me? I stood still, clutching my single duffel bag, tears streaming down my cheeks. But for once, they weren't tears of frustration or invisibility. They were tears of relief. I wasn't home anymore. I wasn't the help. I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was Harper, just Harper. And I was free. That night, I checked into a modest hostel near Waikiki Beach. It wasn't glamorous. Bunk beds, shared bathrooms, the faint smell of sunscreen lingering in the air. But it felt like a palace to me. No one barked orders. No one dismissed me. I was surrounded by travelers, people who didn't know me, people who saw me as just another human being chasing something better. I sat on the beach with a cheap plate of noodles from a food truck, toes buried in the sand, and watched the ocean stretch out endlessly. The waves rolled in and out, steady and unbothered, and I realized that for the first time, my life could be like that. Steady, mine, free from the storms at home. Of course, I couldn't stop my mind from drifting back to that kitchen table, to the note I had left behind. I pictured Mom rereading it over and over, fury tightening her jaw, humiliation burning her cheeks. She had built her entire holiday around perfection, and perfection had just walked out the door. I imagined Maddie sulking, forced to explain to her friends why there was no dinner, no maid beds, no helpful little sister to handle everything. For once, she couldn't hide behind me. She had to face the work herself. And Dad, I wondered if he sat quietly with that note, finally realizing his silence had consequences. I hoped he saw that by not speaking up, by not protecting me, he had pushed me toward the only choice I had left. Part of me felt guilty. They were my family, after all. But another part of me, the stronger part, knew they needed this wake-up call. Without me, they were forced to see the truth. I wasn't their maid. I wasn't their safety net. I was a person with limits, with dreams, with a breaking point. As the days passed in Hawaii, I kept replaying that Christmas Eve in my mind. The tree lights, the orders, the laughter I wasn't included in, and then the moment I chose myself. That was the lesson, really. Choosing myself. All my life I had been taught that family came first, that I should be grateful, obedient, invisible if necessary, to keep the peace. But what no one told me was that sometimes family doesn't see you. Sometimes they mistake your love for servitude, and if you never speak up, they'll keep taking until there's nothing left. By leaving, I wasn't abandoning my family. I was refusing to abandon myself. On Christmas morning, I woke up to the sound of waves instead of demands. I walked along the shore as the sun rose, the sand cool beneath my feet, and I realized something. This was the first Christmas I had ever spent doing what I wanted. No cooking, no cleaning, no being invisible. Just me, the ocean, and the quiet joy of knowing I had finally broken free. And in that silence, I promised myself something, that no matter what came next, school, work, relationships, I would never again let anyone make me feel small or invisible, or like I was only valuable for what I could do for them. I was worth more than that. I don't know what happened after I left. Maybe Mom still tells people I'm ungrateful. Maybe Maddie complains about how I ruined Christmas. Maybe Dad finally realized he should have spoken up. But none of that matters anymore. Because for the first time, I stopped waiting for their approval and gave myself my own. That Christmas, they lost their housekeeper, but I found myself. And honestly, that was the best gift I could have ever received. So that was my story. The Christmas I finally chose myself over being invisible in my own home. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect, but it was the moment I realized freedom is sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself. If this story spoke to you, if you've ever felt overlooked, underappreciated, or like you had to fight just to be seen, then I hope you take this as a reminder. You're worth more than the role other people assign you. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like. It really helps the channel grow. Share it with a friend who might need to hear it and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your own experiences, times you chose yourself, or maybe the struggles you've faced with family dynamics. And of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss more stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and remember, you deserve to be seen.